Will, you're my hero. What's up? Jake Reed here. If you've checked out some of my other videos on the channel, you know that I'm always exploring how to get new sounds in my home studio, how to use the space I've got, which is not much, in the most creative way possible. So today is no exception. A while back, I did this podcast interview with my friend Blair. He's got a podcast called Recording Drums. And so we were talking about my home studio. I showed him the garage, and he's like, have you ever actually put a kit in the garage? I was like, man, I haven't. I bet it's awesome, though. And then he was like, well, you know, if you've seen the YouTube thing of Bradley Cook talking about recording the song My Hero for the Foo Fighters, it's a double drum track. It's all Dave. And the second drum track, they went into like this parking lot thing at Grandmaster. And I was like, wow. And then he was like, so the double-tracked drums is that super trashy garage. And I was like, literally garage rock. He's like, literally. And I was like, man, I'll have to watch that video. I'm going to do that one day. That'll be great Instagram content. And so now I'm like, dude, I'm going to try this. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe for the YouTube algorithm. Woo! What's up? I'm here with my friend Will Onspach today. Am I even in the shot?
Oh, yeah. You know, you're nailing
Yeah.
it.
Thought I would be. I always talk about, everyone's like, oh, you're an engineer. I'm not an engineer. I'm a drummer who kind of knows how to engineer himself. I'm going to let an actual engineer mic up my kit today.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and set up the mics on this kick. I don't know this mic, which means that I don't know where its capsule actually sits. Capsule alignment is where true phase alignment comes from. If your capsules are lined up, then your phase is lined up. But since I don't know it, I'm going to do what I actually normally do when I don't know where the capsule is, which is just shove it in the hole, aim it generally towards the beater head in there, and generally aim it straight at it as much as you can. I like to use the FET on the outside, so then I put my FET as close to the front head as possible. I want the resonance of the front head. I see some people put it in the hole as well, which is fine. But for me, the sharpness is already coming from here. My kick out, I really want the tone of this drum, and a lot of the tone comes from this front head still and how it's been tuned. Because Jake's a good drummer, I can trust that his drums are going to sound good, and then I can just roll with that. My snare placement is the same as everybody else's. What I'm looking for the most whenever I'm tracking a full kit with a snare is rejection of the hat and the toms typically. So if there was toms here, we would want to make sure that our snare drum mic is angled at a point where the hat isn't going to be directly influencing it and the toms aren't going to be directly influencing it. Same thing with the hat mic, which we're going to use this KSM 141 over here. I typically aim just straight down at it. We're trying to get our studio kit to be super tight. If you heard the original recording of My Hero, like the drums were extremely tight on the one track and the garage drums were just huge. So we're gonna make our indoor tracks tight and our garage tracks huge.
Sick. Let's go check out what Will's got going here. Drums. More drums.
All right.
More drums behind you.
We're gonna use these Mojave mics in a stereo pair to capture the room stereo size.
Boom.
And then we're gonna use this Coles right here to kind of get more a close vibe, just in case we want to push a little definition up in the track of these rooms. This is either going to sound amazing or it's going to sound like complete garbage. My concept was in the original they used a shotgun mic like pointed at some random corner. I always have one mic that I just randomly leave somewhere and just compress it so hard. Drum sounds are never what you think they are. The coolest drum sounds usually come from some random mic like this. Hopefully we'll get something cool with it. If not, we'll just abandon it and use something else because that's what engineering is.
Hey, speaking of drums, just for funsies, hey, I can't believe I just said funsies. I'm using the 60s set of Gretsch toms and this 50s set of Gretsch toms. Yeah, one's 3-ply, one's 6-ply. This one has some tape on it, the other one doesn't. They got coated ambassadors, whatever. It sounds good in here. The whole point of this is we're trying to get some ambience going. This is a newer Gretsch bronze snare, 6.5. Yeah, I love it. It sounds amazing. So good. Yeah, I'm just gonna tune these drums real quick. Cool. All right, hit me. So, I could mix this if I wanted, and it would sound okay. But I figured since we have an actual great mixing engineer here, I should make him do it.
All right, so kick out probably has almost a little too much low end to it. I'm just gonna pull that back a little bit. The original actually isn't that good, and a lot of times when you talk about 90s drums, it's almost important to like do less. You know, it's like you almost have to make it sound worse than what current drums are.
Don't make it sound too modern.
If you make it sound good, it won't sound right for the track, you know? I'm actually going to turn down the overheads just a hair. They're just for the cymbal crashes, so I'm just going to like turn them down for that. I don't think really the hat's important too much either. For that, I'm just generally giving it a tiny bit of directionality by turning it up. So if you pan a hat all the way left, you know, it's like the only purpose that it serves in the mix is for you to hear it on the left more whenever you turn it up.
Drummer perspective.
Right, exactly. And things should always be drummer. When people do it the other direction, I'm like, who is this for? Like, I don't ever want to pretend I'm watching a drummer. I only want to pretend I am a drummer. Like, hi-hat's here, man. It's like, if it's anywhere else, it's going to feel weird. So, right. Don't be weird. All right, so I always put an EQ and then a compressor and then usually some sort of like saturation or limitation, and then maybe another EQ. I'm just gonna go with a Pro Q3. Because this is the 90s, I'll go for a CLA 76. In general, I wanna hear a little bit less of the cymbals and mostly just hear the kick and snare from this. Even though they're very big, so it's like I don't need a lot of them to fill the space that they should fill. And then just for funsies, because this is where we're at in the world, I'm gonna see what kind of tape saturation you have. Cool, so J37, yeah, let's do like a 15 IPS. So the difference between 15 IPS and 30 IPS, I don't know if anybody's ever explained this or not.
Please.
15 ifs and 30 ifs, it's 15 inches per second or 30 inches per second. What happens at 15 inches per second is the low end saturation on tape is a little bit more pronounced. And because this is kick and snare only, like that's all I'm looking for. Fills up that bottom a little bit more. This is the garage kit. All right, so obviously it is super loud right now. I think there is already a bunch of reverb. Yeah, I'm gonna kill all those reverbs just for funsies, just to hear them.
Oh, I also have a distressor on the room mics there, so that's making it
Yeah,
sound
that's
way
cool.
bigger.
I'm all for that. That distress is great. It is probably too much overall for this whole thing, so I'm gonna turn on this garage group real quick and just turn these all down. So that's pretty great to me overall. Whatever is on here, let's see, it looks like an 1176, another 1176. Yeah, that's about what I did on my own mix of this.
Really?
Yeah, generally. I pushed a lot of
Look
the
at
top
that. I'm
end.
not even an engineer.
One thing though, I noted in your mix, you had this weird kit. And I actually did something that was like along the lines of this, where I put a fab filter
This
on.
was from your TikTok video in which we actually did My Hero. So go check that out.
Yeah, if you watch my TikTok video, I put a reel on Instagram for it too. Greasy Will Music on TikTok, Greasy Will on Instagram. So the first thing I'm going to do is like listen to this weird kit because I really liked it and I used it, and I want to do something like this where I take off some of the low end and then I'm going to smash the ever-loving out of this. One thing that I will explain, I generally look at things the same way that I look at a car stereo. You got the bass, you got the treble, and you got that mid. It's one of those three things. You either need more top end, or less bass, or less mid, or some combination of those things. I see EQs all the time, like for drums, and you got like 3,157 boosted at like 6 dB with like a Q like this. Why did you do such a specific thing? Whatever frequency you have, it influences the frequencies around it. With very few exceptions, if you're doing very specific cuts or boosts, you're probably just wasting a lot of time. Like a lot of time. It's so unnecessary. Broad moves and big moves whenever you do EQ. If it's too much, you'll hear it right away and undo it. So this is the weird kit, and then I'm gonna add this close kit in.
And that's with no reverb.
Yeah, that's no reverb.
That's just a lot of compression.
Especially on that weird kit.
It's like
really smashing.
You're using compression to lengthen the notes instead of using reverb to lengthen the notes.
Yeah, no reverb yet. Let's just listen to how it sounds. It's really, really close already. I think the thing that's missing is the garage drums need a tiny bit of master bus glue, which I would probably use like the SSL compressor, and then a tiny bit more reverb. I'm trying to make this garage sound the length of the garage that they used in the original Foo Fighters thing.
Which was a parking garage,
right,
not my residential neighborhood.
Exactly.
Garage.
I'm not trying to think of it in terms of like, I want more reverb added to it. I'm thinking this is a space that I want to create. And so because I'm doing that, I'm putting it directly on the aux of the drum garage. Let's add the original kit back in, the close kit. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty close. Those toms have a nice ring to them. Like, one thing about tape machines, like their frequency response, even on really good tape machines, was somewhere like more like 18K or something like that. So anything you listened to prior to Pro Tools age basically didn't really have 20K in it. There's some exceptions to that, and certainly like some people were recording with really great fidelity, but a lot of the stuff sounds a lot more like the 90s when you just clip a little bit off the top. That's pretty much it.
Just devil's advocate, talking about, like, I have this small room, it's very tight in here, and you might say, like, oh, well, why couldn't you just record both parts in this very room and just put a bunch of reverb on it? It'll sound the same. It's not quite the same, because you're getting that garage sound. It's like there's tons of concrete, hard surfaces in there, so it's naturally just going to sound, like, different.
Yeah, kind of.
So that's the point. I'm just trying to use the space that I'm living in, trying to get sort of close to these songs that have inspired me for most of my life. I'm not trying to literally sound just like Dave Grohl, but use that and take it and say, okay, if someone were to send me a song that's sort of in this vein or just needs some huge sounding drums, I know that the garage is an option. Literally garage rock. Literally. I guess my main point is nothing is off limits in a home studio. Thank you, Blair Senta, for the suggestion, the inspiration, the courage to set the drums up out in the garage and annoy the entire neighborhood. It was super fun. Try it out for yourself. Not in my garage, of course, in your own garage, or maybe an actual parking garage. All right, that's all I got. Studio magic.
Wow.
Good. Okay, cool. That was good enough, right? Let me come listen.